I never really knew where I stood in my family, at least not for sure, until my mom laid it out one night over dinner. No anger in her voice, no drama. Just a calm, matter-of-fact statement. Your sister's family always comes first. You're always last. My dad nodded like it was just a simple fact. Like 2 + 2 = 4. My sister? She didn't say a word. Just smiled into her wineglass. I didn't cry. Didn't protest. All I said was, good to know. But something cracked in that moment. Not my heart, my loyalty. Before I tell you what happened next, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. And tell me this, have you ever realized you were the last priority in your own family? My name's Mia. And for most of my life, I didn't need anyone to spell out my place in the family. No big speeches, no lists on the fridge. Just subtle patterns that quietly taught me how things worked. You only start to notice them once they've shaped who you are. I grew up in a regular house in Denver. Trim lawn, beige paint, family photos near the door. Nothing special to look at. But if you stood inside long enough, you'd start to feel how the energy in that house moved. It flowed fast and full toward one person, my sister. And by the time it reached me, it was already fading. She had this pull like gravity. Conversations leaned her way. Family plans were built around her calendar. If she was upset, people rushed. If she succeeded, the celebration echoed. Me? I was the one who didn't need much. The one who could handle things. The one people called strong. Like it was a badge of honor, not a warning. I wasn't unloved. And that's what makes it so tricky. They loved me, technically. Through little reassurances, empty praise. You'll be fine. You're so independent. Sounded kind, but what it really meant was, don't ask for more. Don't be a burden. Don't need us like she does. I saw it in the small stuff. My birthday cakes? Grabbed last minute from the store. Hers? Custom ordered weeks ahead. Family vacations? I skipped so I could save for school. Graduation? I held everyone's jackets while they took photos. When I left for community college, no one teared up. Actually, there wasn't even an airport goodbye. Just a quick hug in the driveway and a reminder to call. I paid my own way, worked long hours, learned to stretch every dollar and every hour. And every time I pulled it off, it just confirmed the story my parents loved to believe. She's fine. She doesn't need anything. Even years later, after I moved to Seattle for work, nothing really changed. Phone calls were short. Updates about my life? Skimmed over. How's work? That's great. Anyway, your sister's going through something right now. I got good at nodding, listening, being the calm one. Meanwhile, my own life played out like background noise. So when my mom finally said it out loud that I was last, I wasn't shocked by the truth of it. I'd already known. What stunned me was how casually they admitted it. Like it had always been understood. Like I'd signed off on it. And maybe in some quiet way I had. After that dinner, nothing changed on the outside. That was the point. No one called to check in. No one said sorry. Life kept rolling like they hadn't just dropped a bomb on the table. But inside me, something had shifted. The text didn't stop, same as always. A quick one from my mom asking if I could watch the kids, just for a few hours. Another one slipped in casually about bills piling up like she was talking about the weather. Then my sister forwarded me a message about a payment that bounced, followed by a laughing emoji like it was some inside joke. No one ever directly asked for anything. They never had to. It was always just assumed. And I noticed how automatic my responses used to be. Of course. No problem. I'll figure it out. But this time, I didn't respond right away. At first, that silence felt wrong, like I was breaking some unspoken rule. I'd see my phone light up and immediately feel that tightness in my chest, that urge to fix things before they got worse. Instead, I left the phone on the counter. I finished my coffee. I headed to work. I went about my day. And nothing blew up. That realization shook me a little. The world didn't fall apart just because I didn't jump in to solve something. No meltdown. No chaos. Just quiet. Then came a second text. Then a third. More direct. Are you okay? You've been quiet. Yeah, I was quiet because for the first time I was actually paying attention. I started looking at my life with the same sharp focus I brought to my job, my money, my calendar, my energy. And what I saw was a life that had been carved up into little pieces, given away bit by bit. Money slowly drifting out in regular, unnoticed amounts. Time kept open just in case. Plans always left loose because someone might need me. So I started drawing lines. Not with some big speech. Just quietly. Intentionally. I moved money into accounts that only I had access to. I canceled shared logins. I stopped paying for things no one ever really asked about but still expected me to cover. When my sister texted asking if I could spot her just for now, I wrote back, I can't. No reason. No sorry. Just the truth. And instantly the tone shifted. My mom called. Her voice tight but not worried, confused. Is everything okay? You sound distant. Kept it simple. I've just been busy. She paused like she was waiting for the rest of the story. When I didn't say anything else, she filled the silence herself. You know your sister's under a lot of pressure right now. I did know. I'd always known. But what I was finally starting to realize was this. Knowing it didn't mean I had to carry it. That was the real turning point. Not a blow-up. Not some big family argument. Just the moment I finally understood. Being the strong one had become everyone else's excuse to stop doing their part. I didn't realize how fast they'd end up testing that boundary. But I was about to. The call came on a weekday afternoon, right after I wrapped up a meeting. I didn't even need to hear the words to know something was wrong. I could hear it in my mom's voice. That edge. Tight. Rushed like she was trying not to panic. We need to talk, she said. Can you come by this weekend? She didn't explain. She didn't have to. By now I spoke their language. In my family, urgent with no details meant something bad. Something big. Something expensive. When I got to Denver, the house felt heavier than I remembered. The air was thick. Stale. The living room table was covered in envelopes and scattered papers. Bills, warnings, official-looking notices. The kind that make your stomach drop. My sister sat stiffly on the couch, arms folded, eyes glued to the floor. My dad wouldn't even look at me. No one asked how I was doing. They never do in moments like that. My mom jumped in first, words tumbling over each other. It's just a business deal that didn't work out, my mom said. A few payments delayed. Some contracts we signed. Probably a little too optimistic. She kept calling it temporary, like saying it enough times might somehow make it true. I didn't interrupt. Just sat there with my hands folded in my lap, listening like I always had. Then came the pause, the collective breath, the moment they all turned to me. My dad finally cleared his throat. You're in a stable place, he said. You don't have kids. You're in a better position to handle this than most. And there it was. The expectation wrapped in logic. They never said the words outright, but they didn't have to. They wanted me to fix it. Cover the gap. Smooth the crisis. Make the numbers work like I always had. I saw it on my sister's face when she looked at me. First a flash of fear. Then, relief. Like the answer had just walked through the door. But I didn't jump in this time. Instead I asked, what's the plan if I don't? Silence. Not the tense kind. The stunned kind. The kind where no one quite knows what just happened. My mom looked like I'd slapped her. My dad blinked in confusion. My sister's eyes went wide with panic. It was like I'd suddenly started speaking a foreign language. Not helping. That had never even been an option. I need time, I said calmly, to understand everything. They nodded fast, way too fast. Relieved. Assured. Certain I just needed a moment to calculate how much I could give. Not if I would. That night, lying in my childhood bed, I stared up at the ceiling. And something settled inside me. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. The next morning I booked 2 appointments. One with my therapist. One with a legal advisor. If I was going to walk into this mess, I wasn't going in as their default safety net. Not this time. I was going in on my terms. When I came back the next weekend, I didn't bring answers. I brought boundaries. The house looked the same, but the air felt different. Tighter. Like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to be saved. The table was still covered in papers. But now they were sorted into piles. Bills in one. Payment notices in another. Contracts neatly clipped together, pages creased and frayed from too much handling. My parents were already seated. My sister was next to them. Her husband hovered by the doorway like he wasn't sure if he belonged in the room where the damage had been laid bare. No one smiled. No one offered me coffee. My mom was the first to speak. "We're really glad you came," she said. Her hands were clenched in her lap, her voice soft but brittle. That tone I knew so well. The one she used when she needed something but couldn't quite bring herself to ask. I sat down, calmly placed my bag on the floor and said, "Let's talk." My dad cleared his throat and launched into a speech I'd already heard. The downturn. The delays. Bad timing. He spoke like a man trying to sell a pitch he'd practiced all week, hoping polish would hide the lack of accountability. My sister chimed in here and there, glossy-eyed, talking about the kids, the stress, how none of this was supposed to happen. Eventually, the words dried up. Then my mom leaned in. "We just need help getting through this part," she said, "until things stabilize." "How much?" I asked. She blinked. My dad hesitated. My sister took a breath, then answered for them. She said the number carefully, rounding it off like that might somehow make it easier to hear, less overwhelming. After a beat, I asked, "What's the plan?" My dad frowned. "What do you mean?" I said calmly, "what's changing? So this doesn't happen again." The question landed wrong. My mom's mouth tightened. "Mia, this isn't the time to interrogate us." I gave a small nod. "Then it's not the time for me to write a check." And just like that, the energy in the room shifted. My sister sat up straighter. "We're family," she said, her voice rising just enough to sound emotional, but not confrontational. "This isn't about plans. It's about helping." "Helping who?" I asked. She looked at me like the answer was obvious. "Us." I glanced around the room. "And who's helping me?" Silence. My dad leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "You're in a different position," he said. "You don't have the same responsibilities. You're single. You're stable. You can afford to step in." There it was, the same logic I'd been handed my whole life. The same math that always ended with me footing the bill. "I can afford to step in," I said slowly, "because I've spent years building a life where I assumed no one would catch me if I ever fell." My mom's eyes welled up. "We didn't know you felt like that." I met her gaze. "You did. You just didn't think it mattered." The room went quiet again, but this time it wasn't confusion. It was discomfort. I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder, and slid it onto the table. My movements were slow, controlled. Every eye followed it. "This is what I'm willing to do," I said. "And this is how." My dad opened the folder first, brows pulling tight as he scanned page after page. My mom leaned over to see. My sister stretched her neck to look, her face draining of color. "This is a loan," my dad said flatly. "Yes," I replied, "with clear terms." My sister shook her head. "Why are there conditions?" "Because this isn't a bailout," I said. "It's structured help." My mom's voice trembled. "You don't trust us." "I trust patterns," I said quietly. "And this pattern has been running my entire life." The terms weren't cruel. They weren't punishment. They were just practical. Assets had to be sold before any funds were released. Spending needed to be documented. No new financial commitments without proof of stability. Family therapy, not optional but mandatory. And a written agreement that my name, my credit, and my future would never again be used as a safety net. My dad pushed the folder away like it burned. "This is cold," he said. "This is how banks treat people." I nodded. "Then treat me like a bank. Because when you needed emotional support, I was family. But when you needed money, I became infrastructure." My sister's eyes filled with tears. "So you're punishing us now?" I shook my head. "No. I'm ending the punishment of me." She looked from our parents back to me. "If you don't help us, we lose everything." I held her gaze. "If I help without boundaries, I lose everything I've built." The words hung there, heavy and true. My mom reached out to take my hand, then hesitated, like she wasn't sure she still had the right. "We never meant to make you feel like you were last." I gently pulled my hand back. "But you did. And you said it out loud." No one argued. No one could. My dad stared down at the paperwork, jaw clenched. "So this is it?" he asked. "Sign or sink?" "No," I said. "This is grow or repeat." The room fell still. Time stretched. My sister wiped her face. Her husband paced behind her, silent. My parents started whispering to each other, low, frantic, scrambled voices trying to patch things up without a plan. But for the first time in my life, I didn't fill the silence. I didn't smooth things over or offer ways to fix it. I just waited. Finally, my dad looked up. "We need time," he said. I nodded. "You've got 24 hours. My sister's head snapped up. "That's it. That's it," I said, standing. "Tomorrow I'll come back. Either we move forward with this, or we don't move forward at all." I walked toward the door. Just as I reached for the knob, my mom called after me. "If we say no," her voice cracked. "Are you walking away?" I paused, hand still on the handle. "I'm not walking away from you," I said. "I'm walking toward myself." The next day when I returned, the papers were signed. No speeches. No excuses masked as apologies. Just tired faces and trembling signatures. There was real relief in the room. But also, something lost. Something that wasn't coming back. As I packed my things to leave, my sister looked at me, really looked at me. Not with that old sense of entitlement. Not with judgment. But with uncertainty. And for the first time, that wasn't mine to fix. The fallout didn't come like a storm. It crept in quietly, step by step, each one heavier than the last. First came the practical changes. They listed their assets, canceled subscriptions, started tracking every dollar instead of ignoring where it went. Money stopped being vague, started having limits, boundaries. Before they downsized their house, they downsized their expectations. And that alone changed how every conversation sounded. Family therapy began a few weeks later. It was awkward, tense. My dad spoke like he was picking every word off a minefield. My mom cried more than she talked. My sister sat stiff and guarded, arms crossed like she'd been forced into a class she didn't sign up for. I listened more than I spoke. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I no longer needed to justify my experience. The truth had already been documented, signed, agreed to, and something unexpected began to happen. The panic faded. The urgency softened. Without me there to absorb the impact, everyone else had to carry their part. My sister started learning how to sit with discomfort, instead of tossing it onto me. My parents stopped using phrases like, "We'll figure it out," when what they really meant was, "You will." We didn't have a dramatic breakthrough. No sweeping moment of forgiveness. But we had space. Space where guilt used to live. Space where obligation used to press on my chest like a weight. Back in Seattle, my life felt steadier, lighter. I focused on work. I slept better. I stopped tensing every time my phone lit up. When my mom called, it was to ask how I was, not what I could do. When my sister texted, there was no follow-up ask. But the biggest change wasn't theirs. It was mine. I stopped feeling like it was my job to hold everything together. I stopped proving my worth by solving other people's problems. I learned that boundaries don't erase love. They make room for it, without letting it crush you. One quiet evening, sitting alone in my apartment, I felt something shift deep inside me. For the first time ever, I wasn't waiting to be chosen. I had already chosen myself. And that changed everything. For years, I thought being last in my family meant I needed to work harder, give more, stay quiet. I was wrong. Being last was never a position I needed to fight for. It was a signal, clear and final, that it was time to step out of the line completely and start building a life where my worth wasn't measured by how much I gave up,